Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Oversimplified Science. Today I want to talk a little bit about stress in general, but to understand stress we need to again do a little simple anatomy and physiology. Basically, to understand what goes on during stress, you need to understand the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is a system of nerves that lay outside of the central nervous system everybody's pretty familiar with. The central nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord, and then the peripheral nerves that come off of that control skin, muscle, things like that. The autonomic nervous system lays in front of your spinal column, deep into your chest, and it runs things like your heart rate, your respiratory rate, breathing, your sweating, things like that. That's where it gets its name, automatic, autonomic, things that just happen automatically. You don't have to keep thinking, okay, keep breathing, keep beating heart. It just happens, all right? But this system is separated into two balanced systems. One is called the sympathetic nervous system. The other is the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system, most people are familiar with. It's the fight or flight mechanism, okay? The fight or flight mechanism, the sympathetic system, basically does things like increases your heart rate, increases your respiratory rate, constricts blood vessels, constricts sphincters in the body, it promotes sweating, and the big thing it does, though, is it releases adrenaline, okay? And people are familiar with that. You get that big burst of adrenaline so you can either fight harder or run faster during the acute stress situation. The parasympathetic is the opposite of that. It actually brings everything back down to a resting level. It slows down your respiration, it slows down your heart rate, it slows down your sweating, and it cuts off the flow of adrenaline, basically. Okay, this system has served us well for eons. It was set up to help us survive, and it's done a very good job. When we used to have to fight for our food or run so we weren't food, it served us very well. I used the scenario of fighting a saber-toothed tiger. You either fought it or you ran away from it, and you had that extra energy to get that done. The problem now is that we don't have those kinds of stressors anymore. We don't have to hunt down our food. We don't have to run from things to not be food. Stress today has changed. I tell people it's more like we've now put the saber-toothed tiger on a leash and we lead it around all day, every day. People working, double shifts, 2 jobs or 3 jobs, single parents raising kids, grandparents raising kids, trying to get to all the practices and the games and things that kids are involved in these days. The stresses have changed. They're no longer quick and over like fighting the saber-toothed tiger. Now it's kind of an all-day, everyday, steady hum. And this system wasn't really set up for that. Another piece of that system, let's talk about the sympathetic again. When adrenaline is released into the system, it also releases, causes a release of cortisol, okay? And cortisol is another part of the system that does things like gives you a quick burst of energy, it heightens your memory function, it heightens your immunity, it heightens your anti-inflammatory process, it even lowers sensitivity to pain, but again, that's in those short spurts, okay? The problem is, again, we have kind of this all-day stress, so we get this all-day drip of adrenaline and cortisol into the system, and in excess like that, or in an ongoing stressful situation like that, basically what happens then, the cortisol actually starts to have the opposite effect that it's supposed to. It starts to impair your cognitive function, it starts to decrease bone density, it starts to decrease muscle mass, it suppresses your thyroid function. Your thyroid is kind of the body's central control, and it can be messed up when there's an ongoing release of cortisol. It can create high blood pressure, it can lower your immunities, it can lower your anti-inflammatory response, and it actually has been linked to increased production of abdominal fat. Abdominal fat has been directly linked to heart attacks, so again, stress, abdominal fat, heart attack. I think people can understand that. So again, what do? We've got this all-day drip of adrenaline because of stress. We've got this all-day drip of cortisone having these negative effects on the body. And basically, we said that the sympathetic nervous system doesn't know the fight with the saber-toothed tiger of years ago, or the all-day, everyday stress that seems as though we're leading the saber-toothed tiger around on a leash. The good news is it can also not tell the difference between a fight with a saber-toothed tiger and a bout of exercise. So exercising, even at a moderate level for 10, 20 minutes, makes the body think you just wrestled the saber-toothed tiger. So when you stop exercising, the body will then revert back to that parasympathetic system that brings everything back to a balanced or relaxed state, cuts off the flow of adrenaline, cuts off the flow of cortisol, so the body has a healthier chemical release. Now, we said stress comes from being so busy, so not every day are you going to be able to get to the gym necessarily. But again, quick bouts of exercise certainly are helpful, but breathing can also be effective in reversing this process to shut off the sympathetic and get back to the parasympathetic. And we're not just talking any breathing, but deep diaphragmatic breathing, taking big deep breaths down into the belly. And trying to work the diaphragm. Again, the sympathetic nervous system is in the chest, and that deep breathing creates a change in that system, so it reverts back to the parasympathetic. And we will review deep breathing exercises and things like yoga that are very helpful with breathing at another time. So again, exercise makes the body think that you've just wrestled the saber-toothed tiger, shuts down the flow of adrenaline and cortisol, so we have a healthier body.